Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle to take the defensive end. If he's over him, if he's not, you drive down the first man to his inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one goes. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, gang? Welcome into Packers Total Access Postgame Show. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. We should have Tim call in shortly. He's stuck in traffic right now. I'm sure leaving the game. And we may have a few other people chime in as well, which I've got to get that link sent out, Jacob. I'm already behind the eight ball here, man. How you doing, buddy? What'd you think of the game? Let's get some initial impressions before we dive into some of the details.
Yeah, man, I'm good. It's great to see everybody in the chat right away. Man, we had a lot of guys talking, getting ready to get under there. We'll comment on that maybe, but it looks like you guys have a very long conversation going on there, so that's cool. In my opinion, Brenton Cox did do enough to make the team, so we'll start with that. Also, we can kind of start with just some overall takeaways. I did get to watch everything that Jordan Love did. I kind of snuck away from some work duties and was able to chart every single play that he was in on, which was into the second quarter, which I very much thought was great. I mean, I thought maybe he was going to play 2 series, yank him. He went into the second quarter and they had the starters around with him. And that was cool to see because we needed it. And I think that right now we can definitively say that Jordan Love is good, but he needs a few series to settle in. And that he needs a little bit of time to dip his toe in, and that you give him that third series, that dude is climbing. And I can't wait to see what he does when he has the whole rest of the game once he's settled in, because it looks like it takes him like a series or 2, and then he starts throwing dimes, and it's really cool to see that. So we can get into that if you want to. I don't know where you want to start, Clayton, but
let's do this, man.
Cheesehead first.
The Packers beat the Seahawks 19-15. And I got to be honest, man, we got in the second half, and I'm kind of like, it doesn't really matter how it ends up. And to see them go down and score there toward the end it just kind of shows you. I love it, dude. I love the cat in the background. That was awesome.
He's jacked up too.
He was literally like, dude, it's preseason. What's he talking? I'm out of here. So to see them kind of go down and come away with the W, it kind of shows you how deep the roster is too. And sometimes people dig a little too deep into preseason. And like Michael Lombardi says, Jacob, sometimes people don't look enough into it. He listed off like 3, 4, maybe 5 points from last year where he talked about how, what the teams did in the preseason carried over into the regular season, which is kind of cool because when you look at how this team's playing and Jordan Love specifically, man, that can get exciting. The thing that stood out to me the most about Jordan Love, and then I want to get your kind of take on it. The big thing was how comfortable he looks in the pocket. Like this dude has some pocket mobility. And when he broke away for a couple of runs, if I remember correctly, I think he had 3 carries for 21 yards, average 7 yards a carry. But when he took off and run, the thing that just jumped off the screen to me, Jacob, was his stride length. And that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot with players. And of course, Greg Cosell talks about it all the time. It's absolutely huge to him how he says that sometimes you get someone with a fast 40 time and then they get to the NFL and it doesn't transfer over to the field. And he's noticing that the players that it does, they have a very long stride length. Christian Watson's got a long stride length. Romeo Doubs does, believe it or not. And then, of course, seeing Jordan Love scramble out of the pocket, I was like, that dude's legs look long, dude. Like when he's full sprint, he's covering some ground. And again, I think the read option, the speed option, all those things may come into play. But as far as stats go, I'm going to pull up his stat line real quick. I know we've got it on the ticker at the bottom, but I definitely want to get it pulled up here and kind of dive into it in a little more detail.
It in front of me if you want it.
Yeah, let's hear it, man. Let's hear Jordan Love's stat line on the day.
He went 9 of 15, and like I said, those early misses was just him kind of warming up. It seems like we talked about he's got that Brett Favre in him where he's got a few rocket balls for the first couple throws he does. He gets a little tuned up.
A little tuned up.
I'm tuned up. But he really does settle in, and he looks poised. And like you talked about the rushing, I had it in my notes. I was like, Jordan can run, and I wrote that on like 3 different plays, highlighted it, and the way that he did it. I don't. If you remember, I don't remember which play it was, but he was in the pocket, in the left side of the pocket. He kind of blindly rolled to the left. There was a defender that kind of got blocked into him, and he stiff-armed him and then kind of backed away and then threw across his body, and it was just a little bit out of reach. It wasn't a great throw, but to be able to do that, I'm like, man, this dude is really, really good. And there was another one where he scrambled out to the left for 11 yards. Just comfortably, like you said, he's deceptively fast, and it's not the fact that he's a quick twitch guy. It looks long and effortless, kind of like you said. Christian Watson, same thing, just like a gazelle, just very long strides that seem to leap and bounds. And I just really like his accuracy on a couple. He should probably be more like 11 of 15 for sure, maybe even 12 of 15. We had a couple drops, and I'm not really happy about that. Reed dropped a couple of really easy ones. Watson had that one. The Watson was underthrown, and he had a double coverage, and he had to come back and stop his route for it. So I don't blame him necessarily for that drop. That was a very contested catch when he had 5 yards on that dude. So Love needed to put that ball way, at least he had to stop his route to hit that ball. But other than that, I thought that he did very, very well. It was great to see just like you said, like the mentality of this guy. He doesn't seem like anything phases him. I think that might be the best with Rodgers. When he got mad, you're like, oh, Rodgers is mad. Now we're going. But it seemed like so much for him to get that emotional response. Whereas Love seems like you touch him the wrong way, he just goes laser-eyed, and he's like, all right. Like, you know what I mean? And it's cool. Cool to see. And these guys are all so young, man. I'm telling you, again, this came down another preseason game where I felt like I was watching a regular season game. It came down to the last snap, and the defense comes around. And I will say, Benny Sapp only got that interception because if you watched, who was it that came around the corner bending and almost had it? It was Brenton Cox Jr., Clayton. Brenton Cox Jr.
I'm eager to see what his final stat line was because I did not have it updated when the game ended. Let me look real quick.
For a loss, he had a pass.
Oh, yeah, look at this, dude.
And I'll guarantee you, he had a couple pressures. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a really decent PFF grade because he did have one of those plays where he collapsed really hard. He did kind of a bull rush, and it allowed the quarterback, I don't remember what his name was, but he didn't turn outside on him to rush, but he could have easily turned outside on him once again. He did cut inside, and the backer came in to seal that gap off, so it wasn't that much of a catastrophic play, but he set himself up for one of those things again. And I remember Ryan talked about it, and it was true. If you guys remember last game, I believe it was, he did like one of those bull rushes where he just put his head down and he did, to his credit, he pushed the tackle right into the backfield, but the quarterback just ran around him because he didn't steal the edge. And then he just ran in for the touchdown. So, but I'm just saying, man, I really do think he did play. I have his stats in front of me here. Let me see if I can grab him if you want to say something quick.
Well, I was going to go to Tim real quick, and then we'll come back to that. Tim, if you can hear us, man, go ahead and speak up. I know you were at the game today, man. Can you hear us all right?
What's up, Tim?
Loud and clear. What's up, guys?
Awesome. How you doing, Bubba?
I'm doing great. I'm sitting on my couch already. I made it home.
See, I don't want to hear that. That makes me so angry, Tim. I swear, man. That's freaking awesome, dude.
We're slowly figuring out the sneaky ways to park on the street here so we can just, make a couple lefts and a right and then we're home kind of thing. So getting the hang of it.
So awesome.
That's how to do it right there. Well, tell us your initial takeaways, man. What stood out to you there being at Lambeau? How was the vibe? I'll tell you this last podcast we did, gang, you heard me say, man, you remember in the 90s how you couldn't hardly hear the announcers because the crowd was so loud. Dude, today it sounded loud today, Tim, on the TV. Was that kind of how it was in the stadium to you?
Absolutely. There was this was the closest of the preseason games, I think, to a actual true regular game day vibe. especially early on. We still got to get the gold package people to understand when and when not to do the wave. That's still a learning process. Of course, me being a person who went to the game with gold package tickets today, so I'm preaching to all of us. We don't want to do the wave on offense, guys. I mean, Sean Clifford's like trying to read this defense, and you got people doing the wave, and to the point where the announcer literally had to say something twice to the crowd. So you've got public address in Lambeau Field saying, "Guys, save the wave for defense. Save the wave for defense." So it was definitely a game day, true game day kind of vibe today, man. It was awesome.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I did hear, Jacob, were you guys talking about that right when I jumped on? Were you talking about that bomb to Scoot that he dropped?
Yes.
Okay. And my initial observation was the exact same. I looked at my wife and I said, "Man, as soon as he beat on that second move when he beat the DB, that ball should have been thrown." Yeah. And if Jordan would have threw that ball, I'm willing to bet maybe half a second, maybe 3 or 4 or 5/100ths of a second sooner than he released it, that might have been a big play. You're right. It was slightly underthrown, which, it happens, but
maybe you could attest to this because the announcer said, Kevin Harlan, I believe, said that there was a weird swirling wind at the beginning of the game and that it looked like that Love was throwing into the wind on that play and that it's probably kind of why it got hung up.
That's 100% accurate. We had the full gamut of Wisconsin weather today. It was overcast, cloudy, then windy, then we got rain. We sat in our seats about 40 minutes before kickoff and it was raining on us. And it was dark and overcast and windy. And then by the start of the second half, it was beautiful and sunny and the wind calmed down a little bit. And so, yeah, early on that wind was a factor, which is why I was so impressed with our boy Anders Carlson drilling I believe that was, what was that, a 56-yarder he hit?
57-yarder.
57-yarder. And you know what? You guys would be so proud because I stood up and I told everyone in our section, I said, he's going to make this. I did. And that's not a self brag. That's just confidence in the kid. And like we said the other night, man, make them when they matter. And that's what he did today.
Yep.
So I'm still coming down from my game day excitement and high here. It was a blast at Lambeau.
That's awesome. Jacob, you were going to say something just a second ago. Did you have another stat or something you were going to hit on? If not, we can let me mention this. I want to kind of kick it off with this, to be honest with you. Our boy, TJ Slayton. I'm telling you, early in the game, when they had the starters in, this dude, something has clicked. Now, let's hope a positive test don't hit. I'm just saying, because he looks like a different ball player. And did you guys see him do the gravedigger? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I came up off the couch. I was like, he just did and I sent a tweet out. I couldn't find the video of him doing it, but I sent the tweet out with the video of course, our boy Gilbert Brown, Gilbert doing it way back in the day. Man, that's exciting, dude. The fact that TJ Slayton knows about it, and somebody said, I wonder if Gilbert approved. My guess is Gilbert will be okay with it, but I'll tell you this, the fact that a young TJ Slayton knows what that 93 means and being that big guy in the middle, that is really cool, Jacob. Really cool.
No, that's really, really awesome. I actually got the pleasure of meeting Gilbert Brown one time. That's a story for another day. It's really funny, actually. I literally jiggled his belly like a bowl full of jelly. Because that's about where I came up to him at the time. It was me and my cousin. It was funny. But I did want to say that that 57-yarder by Anders Carlson was the third longest in Lambeau Field history. Just pretty cool. Think about that. So now we maybe understand why they put a draft pick on this guy. That's some pretty high air to be flying around in. You know what I'm saying? So, and like,
think of how cool it'll be when he hits a 60+ yarder during the regular season.
Do it. It sounded like that a lot of these kicks he's been making are good from, like, literally they're saying they could probably be good from 65+ is how big of a leg he has. So if that's the case, and by the way, thank you, Mike Hebring, for the super chat. Justin Fields has thrown a total of 9 passes in the preseason. 9. It's literally the one thing he needs to work on, make it make sense. I was actually trying to find out if that was true. It is true, Mike, and he is not looked very good. And people say, well, of those 9 passes, he had like 2 touchdowns. He threw for -4 yards on those plays, I believe, or something along those lines. He had nothing to do with it. So
I'll make sense for it right now. You ready for this, Mike?
uh-oh.
The reason you've only seen him throw 9 passes is the same reason that I shave the side of my head. I've got a fat head, and I'm trying to hide it, right? That's the same exact reason they don't want him throwing that football, because they're trying to hide it. It's going to be ugly, man. It's going to be real ugly. I'm just telling you. Anyway, go ahead, Jake.
No, man. I mean, I'm just we can kind of get on to whatever you guys want to talk about. But there's so many cool things. Again, one thing, as we're all being real happy and positive, there was way too many false starts to start this game. And there was way too many kind of mental weird. We do seem like we start very slow. And it is nice that it seems as if we are really quick to adjust and that we don't get bogged down. I think Ryan talked about that in previous podcasts, where in years prior, you make a mistake, Rodgers gets gloom, the offense gets gloom, nobody's allowed to have fun. It just seems like we're in a death trap spiral to just eventually losing. With this team, it seems like, okay, you want to play rough? Okay. And then they get like really ballsy, and they get just really aggressive, and they get like Jordan Love, dude. Again, watching him run, it almost looked like the exact run that he did against, what was it, Cincinnati or no, the Patriots, where he could see that he's getting chased by a guy. He sees that there's people in front of him. He looks back, takes a little notice at him, and then just slides down. And then, yeah, it looks smooth. It doesn't look like it looks like as if he were to have, like I said, the rest of those games that who knows what that stat line looks like, because he is starting to pinpoint in around right around when the second quarter starts. It seems like this guy starts to turn on, and I'm so excited to see what the other 3 quarters of football will look like, especially because our defense, Tim, maybe you can take over and start talking about this side of the ball. Our defense today, finally, that D line, in my opinion, I saw Lucas Van Ness specifically on a couple plays. Real quick before I hand it off to you, as Clayton talked about Slayton, I have it right here on the second. Oh yeah, it's with the first possession by Seattle. On the first down, it was Clark and Van Ness, a 1-yard loss. The second and 11, Van Ness got good pressure. There's a short pass to Nixon. 3rd and 7, a slant to Rasul, 10-yard gain for a first down. But then on that series that started over, Slayton plays the run nicely for a 1-yard run. And then on 2nd and 9, he has a pressure that he probably won't get a lot of credit for, but it had to be a dump off for 6 yards. But the guy was in the backfield like he looked like an edge rusher at how big he is. So I'm just saying, guys. And then after that, Valentine, if you guys remember, he cut the route off on that little turnaround route, and he almost had a pick 6. He dropped an easy pick 6. Valentine would have had another splash play and would have looked like the best 7th rounder we've ever drafted in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So
yeah, he actually popped up in my notes a couple of times. He didn't play perfect, but I thought he played really good. I want to say this. Thank you again, Mike Hebring, for the super chat. We got Goose with the super chat. Thanks, Goose. We appreciate it. He said, let's give him something to talk about. Let's talk about love. 65%.
65%.
65%. That's what was he 65% today? If he was, I'm going to lose my mind.
I don't.
Let's see.
Actually, right. I think
he was 9 of 15. No. That ain't going to be quite 65. But hey, close enough, Goose. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Goose.
We definitely appreciate the passion there. Then when it came to Carrington Valentine, he was in my notes early in the first quarter. He does a phenomenal job breaking on the ball. You can see that. I'm going to do a chalk talk in the morning. And when I do that chalk talk, I'm going to try to include some Carrington Valentine to show you guys how he breaks on the ball. It's really, really impressive. Also, he did a great job forcing the edge on a run play, where he literally cut the edge off. And I don't even know if he was technically the forced defender, but he came down, played the edge, cut it off, forced the guy back inside for a short gain. So Carrington Valentine is showing a lot of promise, man. He's made the roster. There's no doubt about that. Now it's just a matter of how much playing time is he going to get during the season. Of course, without the injuries. We don't want any injuries to our starters, right? Obviously. But I'm eager to see if he battles his way into that starting lineup. But from the defensive side of the ball, Tim, anything stand out to you, man, right off the bat?
Well, looking at my cell phone notes here from section 111, the thing that stood out to me was Zay McDuffie played really well today. I feel like he had a solid game. That pass interference he was called for was total BS. At best, it was a hold. It looked like a hold. It looked like a hold before the ball released, which would have been a difference in field position there. I think the officials got a bad call there. But he played really aggressive today. That stood out to me. And also Brenton Cox Jr., I'm sure Jacob's already tooted the horn already. But several pressures from him, and he just seemed to be involved in everything. And he just looked really, really good. And also the thing that I obviously take Valentine off my notes because we can't say enough about him. The thing that stuck out to me was SJC, man. Shamar Jean-Charles looked really good in the open field. There were a couple of plays that it was just him. And, he's not a big dude, but he made some really solid open field plays to stop some bigger gains. So I think, you guys talked about the Lukeness monster. He was, they were getting creative with him. Now, I don't know if this play I'm thinking of was like a mistake or if they were getting creative, but I think it was in the second quarter. And I looked over and I even said something to Mrs. Green. I said, they got Lucas Van Ness matched up on the slot receiver. I said, wait a minute, is this for real? And then he went in there for a good minute, and then he moved over to the edge, and Quay kind of shifted to the slot receiver. It was a clear run play, and I even think Van Ness got in on the stop there too. He crashed and got in on the run stop, but it was just funny to like kind of see that, like, oh my God, like, are we gonna put this guy matched up in the slot? Like, oh my goodness. But no, I was very proud of our defense, and I was proud that after they gave up that big gain towards the end, I kind of just looked over and I was like, man, this game's going to end on a pick. I can feel it. Let's get a pick and let's go home. And was that Valentine that almost had? No, who was the one who almost had it?
Valentine.
That was. And it just skipped off the turf. And then a few plays later.
That was actually Hooper. You're thinking of
William. That was Hooper, right? Austin Hooper?
Yeah. William.
William Hooper. Not wrong Hooper. But yeah, one just barely skipped off the turf. And you know what? It's like Clayton always says, man, the hell with sacks, man. Let's get pressures. Pressures create turnovers. And we were pressuring that quarterback, which was very refreshing to see. Being a fan of this defense and waiting, the better part of the last 3 seasons to really see that. I think the boys did a great job today. There's obviously things to correct, but there's a lot to be excited about with our defense today. Yeah, obviously, other than maybe.
The only thing that stood out to me was Enos Gaines got beat for that touchdown. I think Enos Gaines had kind of a rough day, and that doesn't bode well for him, as far as making the roster. Now, of course, him being that what Paul Brettel refers to as the backup nickel, right? That carries a lot of weight, a lot of value. But when he got beat for that touchdown, it's like, oh man, that might make or break him making this roster, because that DB room is so heavy. And of course, like we said, Benny sat there at the end, and you could tell, like you said, Tim, and I could kind of feel it there at the end too. It's like they were playing enough. It wasn't prevent, but they were playing enough coverage that it was like they were just waiting for the opportunity. Eventually, 2 things are going to happen for the Seahawks. They're going to run out of time, and they're going to run out of field. That's what's going to happen. And everything's just going to get closed in. And it was absolutely awesome seeing Benny Sapp get that game-winning interception at the end. It sounded a lot like this.
Took it down the sideline, turned over with my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
It kind of felt like a little job, man, a little swag. And then for them to all run down to the opposite end zone, do a Lambeau leap, and celebrate with the fans. Just a great way to end the preseason. Guys, we don't know how the season's going to go, but I'm going to say this. I don't think the preseason could have went any better. I mean, you've seen Jordan Love, as people were saying here in the chat. If I could find the chat here, I don't get too mixed up. Someone in the chat was talking about, man, it's great to have a mobile quarterback again. And again, that's not a knock against Rodgers. It's just you've got a quarterback that's young. I think it was SoPro here. Yeah, SoPro said it feels good seeing a mobile quarterback. I mean, the guy's just got I can't say it enough. He looks so calm in the pocket. He looks so poised. And when he decides to go, Jacob, he freaking goes. There's no hesitation, right? And he's still kind of looking to make the play. One of the negatives I had on offense, Jaden Reed, I think he had 2 drops that I counted.
Yeah.
Which we've been talking about that. Like, man, that's something that just hasn't showed up this whole offseason, and you kind of expect it from a rookie. So I guess I'm coming away saying, okay, Jaden Reed is human. We can check that off the list now, right? But maybe you can get some of those drops out of the way before we get into the regular season. Let's see here. Cornelius in the chat said Brooks and Wooden fire. If I remember correctly, I believe Carl Brooks had a pass deflection too at the line of scrimmage, which you've seen that over and over this preseason, Jacob. He's one of them guys that keeps getting in the throwing lane with that big frame.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of stats. They're pretty much at the bottom, both of them. They didn't have no tackles, nothing like that, but they had a bunch of pressures. And I shouldn't say a bunch, but I'm sure they had some pressures and some hurries. And I'm over the moon. Again, I tried to watch Devontae Wyatt because I wanted to see some stuff from him. It seems like they're almost putting more of a double team on him than they did with Kenny Clark on a few plays. And you saw Kenny Clark randomly get some pressure on a few plays. So that's a little interesting dynamic. They did also seem to do like a five-man defensive line kind of front where I believe it was like Hollins and like Preston on the other side. And then they had Slayton in the middle, Wyatt and Clark. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. Like,
I'll tell you what that's called, just for those of you listening. That is called a 34 jam.
No?
34 jam. Yeah. You had 3 down linemen, right? 3 defensive linemen. Or no?
Yeah, it looked like it, but it seemed almost like that yeah, you're right. 3 down linemen, 2 edges were kind of in a.
So they typically refer to that as 34 jam when the nose tackle is playing what they call shade. He's playing zero technique directly over the center, and you've got a 5-man front. A quick way for the offense to kind of decipher that as they refer to it. They refer to it as jam. You can run a 43 jam as well. But, of course, us having a 34 defense, it's called 34 jam. Go ahead, though, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. But I just – when we get those different kind of fronts, I want to kind of point them out so you guys can get used to hearing on all the listeners of those different fronts because it is important. It determines how a defense, reacts to the play. You can kind of understand where the gap responsibilities are, at least cheat in that direction. And the offense's perspective, you'll start to catch a few tendencies of, okay, they're showing a jam here. They like to run weak side when they run a jam. Or they like to boot right off the jam. Things like that will come into play as the season goes along.
Yeah, no, one thing I did want to highlight, which is really crazy, this is a little bit jumping to a different section here about the offense, but if you remember, randomly in the middle of the game, we started to see this crazy up-tempo from Jordan Love in the offense where and even John Kuhn and I believe Harlan said in the they're like, oh, are they trying to do a random 2-minute drill with the first quarter running down?
The turbo package.
They called a timeout with 15 seconds left in the first quarter for no reason, apparently, other than the fact that they were trying to mimic. I bet you they said, Jordan Love, treat this almost as if like you got, 20 seconds left on the clock, and the first quarter is really the second quarter kind of thing. And then when you look at the team stats, I don't think we realize how much we really did win this game. It says 19-15 on the scoreboard, but we had 23 first downs to their 14. We were 9 of 18 on third downs to their 6 of 14. We were 1 of 3 to their fourth down efficiency where they were 0 of 0. But we had 77 total plays to their 54, which again, we talked about the up-tempo stuff. We had 342 total yards to their 279. We did both have 11 drives. Yards per play, they actually outbeat us there. And then passing yards, we had 178 to their 205, but we had 164 rushing yards to their 74. And the time of possession, the Green Bay Packers had 37 minutes to their 22. That's a pretty, that's a lot. That's a very big swing. Usually you don't see like a 15-minute swing like that. That's crazy.
Definitely. Let's see. We got split screen game in the chat. The D line's going to be insane with Gary back. O lines in the fourth quarter will be so gassed. I'm almost worried for opposing quarterback safety. I want to say this. Shout out to Split Screen Gaming. He just became a new member of the channel. Welcome to the posse, to the PTA posse, man. And again, you'll be entered into that drawing for the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey as well. And we're going to be doing some cool stuff for our YouTube members as well. And again, guys, if you're interested in that, it's just something, just a way that we can kind of you can support the stream, and we can do some stuff to kind of highlight people that are supporting the stream and helping us out. So, Tim, another one that stood out to me today, and I heard some people in the chat earlier. I read it. Isaiah McDuffie. Isaiah McDuffie to me looked good, dude. He was a great special teams player last year. I think he was our best special teams player, if I remember correctly. Today, the thing that I had wrote down was he had great pursuit, great tackling. He was always around the ball, and that dude was, he was showing up to finish. Did Isaiah McDuffie stand out to you any at all? And as we were chatting, did anyone else kind of come to mind?
Yes, definitely. I'm glad you brought up Zay McDuffie, because that is our guy if Devondre Campbell's not on the field. That's something that we are going to need to keep an eye on. If you're not watching Isaiah McDuffie play football, you got to watch him, because solid backup might be an understatement. I mean, there's probably 10 or 20 teams in this league that guy could go start for right now at that position. I love the way he plays that position, and it's good to see him. He has a chemistry and kind of a back and forth, a really good relationship with Quay Walker. So to see those two having to be out there, McDuffie was definitely on my notes today. Like I said, I felt like he got a little handsy on that one. They called him for a PI. I thought maybe a little holding penalty instead of the spot foul. But that's what you want to see on your Mike linebackers, right? You want guys in the middle playing aggressive. You want to see that pursuit. You want to see the pursuit to the flat, sideline to sideline, and getting downhill, and getting back if you have to fall back. We did see a couple of the trademark underneath middle of the field kind of plays on us today, which again, we know is part of this overall scheme of keeping in front of us, bend, don't break. But a lot of times we can take that away with good middle linebacker play. And McDuffie he's a standout to me. He has been since camp. I've talked about him during camp too. I thought he had a really good camp. He had some mistake early that he corrected, and he's constantly on the upward swing. On the defensive side, other than him and Brenton Cox really being on my notes, is it Eric Wilson? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Eric Wilson, he flashed a little bit today too. I don't know if you guys have any notes on him. I just kind of quickly jotted his name down. He seemed to be not everywhere, but he made a few plays today.
Yeah, he had 3 total tackles, 1 solo. He's a really Clayton. You talked about I can't remember exactly who you said was maybe our best special teamer. Statistically, I believe our best special teamer was Eric Wilson last year, and Tyler Davis, unfortunately, rest in peace. But other guy was up there.
He's injured, guys. He's not bad.
Yeah,
Right?
rest in peace to his season.
McDuffie was up there though. He was top 3, top 5, I believe, for sure. So, and McDuffie had 5 total tackles, 3 solo. Really did look good, and I believe, like you said, that call on him was a little ticky-tacky. Regular season, I think maybe they adjust that, like you said. So,
yeah, what a name too, right? If that ain't a middle linebacker name, just like Isaiah McDuffie, that sounds like a guy you do not want to get into a fight with.
Yeah, it's funny. I kept calling him. I think it was OJ McDuffie. I kept calling him because that was a really good wide receiver for the Dolphins in the 90s.
Yeah,
and they may be related. I don't know. But another thing that stood out too. Did you guys see the 3rd down conversion to Luke Musgrave in the flat?
Yes,
for a few yards. Had a little bit of yak. Did you see that, Jacob?
Yeah, that was a great play. I actually have that in my notes. And it was one of those plays too where I think that Jordan, that was at least his 2nd or 3rd read, I believe, on the play, if I'm thinking of the right one. And what's cool is that they had a guy out in front of him that kind of led blocked for him. So that it was more like it was just like I saw him put his head down, power play, put his shoulder down, get ahead for a good 2 yards ahead of the first down, and it was like, okay. We got some stuff here. Tucker Kraft had a decent catch too. He did have that false start, but he did have a decent catch, I believe. I got to, like I said, I watched every single snap that Jordan Love was in the game for, and then I listened to the rest and then got to watch the last 5 minutes of the game. So I had a pretty good understanding.
Got it. I want to say congratulations to Garrett Stritzel, who became a YouTube member. Appreciate the support, man. Garrett's always got the jokes. He had one up here. I got to get back to it here. He always calls me out on my hair. Let's see here. Where's it at? There it is. He said, man, the Packers have more highlights this preseason than Clayton's mohawk. The only highlights in this hair, brother, is the gray. And let me tell you, Garrett, it is creeping in quick, dude. It is on its way. So congratulations, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Let's go to Brad. He's got a super chat, Brad. Appreciate you for the super chat there, man. He says, Eagles released Dan Arnold today, 28 years old. Do you think we have interest? I'm assuming that might be a kicker, maybe. I don't know. Let's look it up. Go ahead, Tim. Tell us something else smart as I look that up. We'll figure out who it is.
Can we shift to the offense a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it, man.
Because we talked about this, I believe, within the last 24 to 48 hours. We got a heavy dose of Caleb Jones at left tackle. I was jumping up and down when they broke the huddle and I saw him go to the left side. People were looking at me like I was nuts. I was just so excited to see him finally on that side of the line. And he looked decent. He looked pretty solid. I didn't see massive issues there. As a matter of fact, I believe he was at left tackle when Magoo hit Jadakiss Bonds for that absolute bomb up the sideline. I could be wrong, though. Again, you get a different perspective watching it there versus being on TV. It's funny when I come home and watch the highlights, it's almost like watching a whole nother game again. But I think Caleb looked really good there at the left tackle spot, which was it was just fun to see him play there. I've been asking for that for weeks now. It was cool. Gotcha.
Good stuff. So Dan Arnold, from what I understand, I believe he's a tight end, and you guys can confirm that for me. 6'6", 240. I'm believing that's the Dan Arnold they're talking about. So
that sounds like a tight end right there.
We don't need him. We have Austin.
Kind of thin at tight end, right?
No.
Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I'm just saying we got Austin Allen. He's 6'8". That's like 2 tight ends.
Our guy's taller.
Yeah. What's up?
Let's see. Here, this right here is some good information. Split Screen Gaming said, "Don't believe we had any botched snaps today." By the way, that's a good thing. I think we had a couple penalties early, but no botched snaps. You're right.
By the way, special teams guys, Anders Carlson, when it matters, as we talked about just the other day, it seems like when there's like actual game time pressure, real pressure, because it was the 2 preseason games, the family night, the scrimmages. He's like, I think he's only missed twice in that situation, and I don't blame him for the block kick. I blame more of like the blocking there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 57-yarder again. 57 yards, guys. That's happy. Let's be happy.
And there was wind. This was not like ideal conditions. And people were like, "Oh, the wind was at his back a little." It's like, yeah, his back, his side, his front, swirling in from the left and from the right. Like, if you stopped and looked at the flags on the goalpost long enough, just when you thought you were tracking the wind, it changed. So I think he did very good today, considering. And the field was a little damp there at that point too. Like I said, we had some rain before the game, so it was just nice to see him drill that one, man. That felt great.
How about this?
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Sorry. Do you want to switch gears? I just had one.
We're going to go to the phones, but go ahead, man.
Just one last thing. I think today it's really weird to say it because if I'm not mistaken, let me check. Emmanuel Wilson had 17 carries for 49 yards. He averaged 2.9. But in my mind, Patrick Taylor kind of solidified himself as running back 3. And I don't know if that makes sense. It's just because of the fact that like he just seemed so smooth with it. He seemed like he was much more under control. Even though they gave Emmanuel Wilson so many more attempts, I just for some reason think that Patrick Taylor earned that spot as running back 3. Yeah, I could be wrong. But
all right, let's go to the phones. We got Mike Hebring on the line here. Mike, how you doing, bub?
I'm good, guys. How are you guys?
What's up, Mike?
We're doing great, man. We're over here geeking out over a little preseason football. You know we got the football bug, dude. That's for sure. What'd you think of the game, man? What stood out to you?
Well, a couple things. First thing is the kicking game. I mean, Mason Crosby's not making that 57-yard field goal, and he sure as heck isn't kicking those balls out of the end zone. So it's good to see. Give it up to Anders Carlson today.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. I'll tell you, when he boomed that 57-yarder, like Tim was talking about, the wind was at his back. I have never been in the stadium and just been like, oh, yep, the wind is staying directly in that direction. It's especially at Lambeau, it's constantly swirling. But yeah, I thought he had a good game today. And again, people were, and it's something that Tim talked about in the past too. People were kind of underselling the fact that he can kick it through the end zone, like you were saying, Mike. That's important, man. It really is.
Yeah, how many times the last couple seasons, the opposing team starting on the 35, 40-yard line almost constantly. And, the Packers defense got their backs against the wall right away. So it's just a nice change seeing that ball go through the end zone.
Yeah, definitely. Garrett Stritzel in the chat said, defensive end Gibson from the Chicago Bears requested a trade today. Now think about who was the running back earlier in the year, Jacob, that went to, I think he went to Detroit and he was dogging the Bears. It was their best running back. Who was it again? It was Montgomery.
David.
Yeah. So you can tell, man, they've got a culture problem down there in Chi-Town, man. There's no doubt about it. These guys constantly wanting out, but go ahead.
I just randomly, I want to be on note because I think this might happen. I heard Ryan say how he has a hot take and he's mad that he didn't say it before it came true. Jonathan Taylor's going to be traded to the Chicago Bears, and they're going to trade him like for Rashawn Johnson or maybe like who's the other guy, Foreman, or maybe Khalil, and they're going to give him some other draft pick, and they're going to act like that it's going to be the best backfield in the history of the NFL. I really do see that kind of for some reason happening, but I just wanted to be on record saying that I said it. So
there you go.
Sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Let me ask you this, Mike, and then we'll get to anything else you got before we let you go. What did you think of Jordan Love today? Well, I'm trying not to fan out here, but from what I've seen, I was pretty excited with the outcome. Did anything stand out to you from Jordan Love's play? Anything you liked, didn't like, could work on?
Well, I just think, like Jacob said earlier, it's just kind of what we've been seeing, right? I mean, he comes out, he looks a little shaky to start, but then he just gets in that mode where he looks like he's in total control. I love the way he run the ball today. Just confident and being careful. But no, I thought he was pretty much what we've been seeing. Very good.
Definitely, I agree. And again, there's going to be ups and downs. We all know that. And that's what I love about the Packers fan base. I don't see a bunch of Packer fans that are sold one way or the other. I think everybody's pretty realistic. Like, look, we don't know what this season's going to hold, but Jordan showed flashes. He showed that he can make those throws. Now, the question is, how consistent can he be, and how much is he going to protect the football, which I think he's done an excellent job protecting the football. We had Paul Brettel on, I think it was the night before last on the show, and he was talking about that very thing, that it's like he has a very, very, very good gauge on when to push the ball down the field and when to let up a little bit and kind of protect the ball and maintain that, that turnover differential aspect of the game. So I think he's going to do great, man. I think we're going to look up again, just give me a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio and just a few rushing touchdowns. And I think this team's going to be in contention for the playoffs. So anything else you got, Mike, before we let you go, bud?
Yeah, just one thing, kind of getting back to the kicking game. Well, typical Pete Carroll, icing a kicker in a preseason game. Are you kidding me or what?
Did you see Matt LaFleur's face, Mike?
I did not. No.
He literally looked up, and then it showed the Seattle Seahawks sideline. And if I understood correctly, this is just my read on it, I could be wrong. Pete Carroll looked back at one of his assistants, and he looked upset too. So it kind of made me think, did an assistant call a timeout? Or was Pete Carroll just kind of being like, oh, the hell with it, we're going to call a timeout, I don't care. But I thought that was pretty crappy too, man, trying to ice a kicker during the preseason.
Yeah,
I'll say thank you. Thank you. He needs that. He needs that, though. We lucked out. That's good. Let's see if they try to ice him during the season.
Yeah. Again, like Mike said, it's kind of a douche move, but at the same time, it's extra experience, right?
Well, Pete Carroll is no stranger to douche moves, let's be honest.
Took it down the
No doubt about it. All right, Mike, anything else, buddy?
No, not at all. Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, you're the man, buddy. We appreciate the super chat, and thank you for always tuning in and supporting the stream, man. You were awesome, bud.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, take care, pal. It was Mike Hebring, the man, the myth, the legend. Let's see what else we got here. Malik Heath kind of showed up again in my eyes, man. He made a couple contested catches there. That dude just looks tough. He looks tough. What did his stat line end up being? Let me pull it up real quick. We got 4 catches for 35 yards with a long of 15. He was targeted 7 times, though I'd have to go back and watch the tape to see if it was his fault or the quarterback's fault. But again, 4 more catches. What did you think of Malik Heath? Do we still feel like he's making the roster here, guys? Jacob, you go first. Do you think he's making the roster, or what do you think?
Yeah, he's making this roster, and I'd argue that he may be over Samori Toure because this guy, Romeo Doubs, couldn't play today for whatever reason. They're just being precautious with a little lingering semi-injury kind of thing. They put him basically in that X position, and he was the possession receiver. And he showed again that he's not afraid to throw his body out there, contort, and take a hit to secure the catch. He did have a couple. I think he had one drop that was pretty much on him. that he acknowledged, but he did have another good slate of some blocking reps. I think he had one where he missed one a little bit, but I think that he makes this team. Jadakiss Bonds had 2 catches for 60 yards. The longest was 52 off of 2 targets. But like you said, Malik Heath with 4 receptions off of 7 targets. It's clear that they were kind of looking at him, giving him a make it or break it type game. And I think that he did enough today to show that he is, again, he's just a dog. I think that he is a lock. Like Adam Block says, he's a lock. I didn't even know it. Nate the Great says Malik Heath is solid. So yeah, man, I'm on the same boat. I think that he's for sure our wide receiver 6 at least. Yeah.
We got Larry in the chat. Actually, member of the PTA posse here. He said the D looked to be getting pressure all day with 4. Haven't seen that consistently for quite some time. Tim, what did you think about the defensive front? I've seen a couple of times Lucas Van Ness, quick first step, quick twitch, got into the backfield a couple of times. Now, I have to go back and look at the tape and see how many plays he actually made. But to me, he looked like he was comfortable up there on the defensive front. And I felt like the defensive front, Mandy was actually in the room with me during the first quarter. And when Kenny got back there and made that tackle I believe it was a tackle for a loss, he blew up the play. Her words said it best. She just said, Kenny's a freaking beast. That's all she said, which I love. What did you think, Tim, about the defensive front, man? Anything stand out to you there?
I agree. It kind of what you just said that Mandy mentioned. You know, we're going to get to see that Kenny Clark beast mode this year because of the talent we have everywhere else on this line. It's like, you know, how many guys are you going to double? Let's be honest. How are you going to account for the pressure that's coming up the gut and off the edge and possibly from the slot? Like, you know, I had said this before, man, this does have it. They're young, but this looks like it could be a really smothering problem defense for NFL offenses. And I was quite pleased with everybody that we saw getting back there today. We talked about Keyshawn Banks earlier. I was keeping my eye on him, even seeing him. There were quite a few plays that if that play would have been extended just a little longer, he might have got home. Like he was working his man, and he was like maybe a half a second behind of actually, you know, winning that battle and getting home. So there's so much potential. And then you combine the potential with what we're seeing translating to the field already with guys that are absolutely executing. You know, we talked about Slayton. We talked about Kenny Clark. Lucas Van Ness is, you can see the changes from camp translating to the field. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about our defense this year, for real.
Yeah, definitely. John Schmidt in the chat said, Heath obviously ahead of Torrey. Is he ahead of Wicks, or was that injury? I know this. Torrey, to me, seems to be sinking a little bit, but I don't think it's so much that Torrey's playing bad as it is, you know, Heath is just balling. Heath looks like he could be a solid NFL wide receiver, man. And again, I know it's preseason, but when people say, oh, it's preseason, you can't judge it. Okay, so how else am I supposed to judge a guy who's consistently getting out of the top of his stem into the break and making a catch in triple coverage, taking a hit, losing his helmet, getting up and just fired up to be on the freaking field? How else am I supposed to judge that, right? Like, to me, he shows everything you need in a wide receiver, and that may be another one of those Brian Gutekunst, just gems that he found, you know.
I'm glad they gave him number 18.
Yeah, dude, every time I see it too, it brings a tear to my eye. I'm just kind of like, man, I remember another 18 that was willing to go over the middle and take a lick too, you know. Now he's built a little different, but he's just one of those guys, man. To me, I don't want to overstep here because Alan Lazard just got paid $10 million, right, per year on average. But Heath, I have not seen Heath 1 minute of this preseason, 1 second of this preseason. I haven't looked at Heath and been like, he's significantly worse than Lazard. To me, if anything, he looks like he's almost on the same level as Lazard. He really does. Do you agree with that, Jacob?
I mean, I would say that surpasses Lazard because he has the blocking capability. He has that, like we talked about, that dog. He'll block you into your own sideline, into your water cooler. So, and then the fact that I think that he's a better receiver, more nimble, more physical, maybe not as short-handed just in certain situations because Lazard seemed like he could toss him up anything on third down and he'd come down with it. But I think that Malik Heath has a much more ceiling type scenario with his athletic floor, with his athleticism, I think that he could just be, and like you said, he just seems tough. He seems like he's excited. Cornelius in the chat talks about how he thinks he's a wide receiver 4 right now. I could honestly see that. He's playing that physical right now, and we all know Matt LaFleur loves big wide receivers that are not afraid to get dirty when they block, and this dude seems like he's pretty aggressive. So let's go.
Yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Let me go ahead and share this for this next one. If I could find it. Dakota said what we talked about earlier. Did anybody talk about TJ Slayton doing the Gilbert Brown celebration? Yeah. For anyone out there that doesn't know what we're talking about, like I said, I don't have the TJ Slayton one yet. I'm going to try to put it on Chalk Talk tomorrow, though, because that was just a fun thing to watch happen. The nostalgia overload was absolutely awesome. But you can see the screen, right, Jacob?
All right.
All right, so this is the Gilbert Brown grave. This is what he's talking about. They call him the grave digger. He acts like he's digging a grave after he makes a play in the backfield. But check him out. Now, they'll kind of freeze frame it, and then you'll see it at the end. Love it, dude. Love it. I'm telling you, if TJ Slayton does that this year, I'm going to lose my mind, bro. Because that's probably been the most pleasant surprise of them all so far this year, guys, is the fact that TJ Slayton, I mean, I don't know where it came from. Like when I went back and watched that tape from the last 5 games of last season and then stepping right into preseason, it's like, this is not the same player. And you just see it. You see the burst, you see the strength, you see everything that you need in an interior defensive lineman. And it's not just in the run, like in the passing game is where he's excelled the most. It's like, where did this come from, dude? You got to go back to the opening pressers. And Matt LaFleur said earlier in camp, Jacob, he was like, or Tim, he was like, he mentioned TJ Slayton, and there was somebody else he mentioned too that he said he felt like they took really, really big steps. It was TJ Slayton. It might have been Romeo Dobbs, but those are the two that stood out to me. But with TJ, it was like, I seen that on tape at the end of the year. I heard Matt LaFleur say that. We hear about it in camp practice. We've seen it in basically at least 2 preseason games, if not all 3 so far. And again, it's one thing to say, okay, we've seen this on tape. We're hearing rumors about it. But when you hear about them in camp, starting him on the nickel defense and putting him in place of Devontae Wyatt, that says all we need to hear, right, Tim?
Absolutely. And it says that, for all the heat they've caught from us fans, this coaching staff gets it. And when we see things like this happening, they're putting the best men on the field situationally. Down in and down out is what we want to do. And we got to hone that rotation. And when you've got depth, why wouldn't you use it, right? What's good about having depth if you're not gonna plug and play with some guys? And if you look at the defense and really this offense too, that's almost what we're predicated on, is guys being able to plug and play and get in there situationally and get us off the field when we need to be and staying on the field when we need to be. And I think we did a lot of that today. We came up a few times short and we gave up some first downs, but we also got off the field on third down. And that's what I've been preaching forever, is get off the field on third down. I don't care. 3rd and 10, 3rd and short, whatever. Get off the field. And they looked a lot better. Like I said, I was fired up, boys. I was fired up in the stands. You would have thought it was a playoff game watching me, man, because it was just so good to see the fellas out there playing. Everybody, I think, for the most part today, they played to their potential or higher today. I don't think anybody, nobody half-assed it today, man. They left it on the field and they were playing hard today. It was good to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. Back to the offensive side of the ball, Zane in the chat said Kurt Warner had another breakdown on Jay Love versus the Patriots. He did good again. I watched the same breakdown. I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, I confirm what a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback said, but everything he was saying, I was waiting for Kurt to smack me in the back of the head and go, hey, listen, knucklehead, he did this bad and you missed it. But everything kind of lined up with what I seen on tape. And of course, we seen the back shoulder throw to Christian Watson. Again, Jordan, look at Jacob, I just stole his thunder.
Yeah.
Roadhouse.
So obviously Christian underthrew the deep ball, or I'm sorry, Jordan underthrew the deep ball to Christian Watson. That's the way I seen it. I know some people were saying, no, it was a drop. I personally think it was severely underthrown.
Yeah.
Now you've heard Jordan say that the coaching staff, both the quarterback coach and Matt LaFleur, saying we want him to put a little more air under that ball, right? So he started doing that. You've seen that all year long, all preseason long. But then that back shoulder throw, it was a good read too, man. And again, Jordan's just standing tall in the pocket, knows where the play is, exactly what Greg Cosell talks about: elimination, isolation. You come to the line of scrimmage. Okay, what are we not going to do here? What are we going to eliminate from the playbook? Not even the playbook, but the scheme from this specific play that's called. Okay, they're overloaded here. They got a single high safety. Our matchup is over here on the left with this one-on-one. Elimination, then isolation. All right, there's our isolation play. What are we doing? Are we going back shoulder? Are we going quick slant? It was a back shoulder play, and I thought it was a great throw, great catch. Christian Watson and Jordan Love is going to be a connection in the red zone this year, Jacob. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So I was going to say back shoulder touchdown throw to Watson for 6 yards. It was a thing of beauty. It was very, very precise pinpoint. Took advantage of the defensive back that probably was thinking like, oh, Watson, I know he's going to do that like end zone corner route or something like that. Watson sold it very perfectly, turned around, and it was just a beautiful ball. And that end caps 3 consecutive preseason games where Love's last pass of the game is a touchdown throw.
Really? I didn't think about it.
That's pretty freaking cool if you think about that. Now, most of those happened either late in the first or mid first quarter to early second quarter to mid second quarter on this one. To end that series, Love went 7 of 10 for 60 yards. It was a 15-play drive. Guys, we have every reason to believe just as soon as he starts humming, we pull this dude, right? And this is as we're playing, maybe not necessarily the starters of the starters, but we have a decent amount. For how young and inexperienced we're supposed to be, we should be able to go against, certain teams, and they should be able to make us look silly if we're not a good and competitive team. I really think that we should hold our heads high. People are sleeping on us. People are not giving us the due credit that we deserve with our defense, with the special teams even running a little bit better than they were for the last 2 or 3 years. This could be, and if Love is it, if that 87, what is it, 87.1 PPF grade, if that even sinks down to like a 78, we're still in good shape because I think our defense is for real. It's shown us that it's for real. Let's go.
Definitely. Listen to this. We got the first hot take of the night here. Comes from Split Screen Game, and he said, hot take, but Love may be slightly ahead of where Rodgers was in his first season when it comes to reads and awareness. Aaron obviously was much better throwing the ball, but he's a GOAT at that. So let me get back to that. I'm sorry. So played consistent, played last can't read that. Sorry, last team. What's it say? Anyway, his first comment. Back to it. Hot take, but Love maybe slightly ahead of where Rodgers was, basically saying, but Rodgers could throw the ball better. I don't think it's too hot of a take. I remember watching Aaron that year. I think Aaron, if I remember correctly, he threw 12 interceptions or maybe 16 interceptions that first season. So he was, he was kind of, you got to think about this too, Split Screen, which this first thing that comes to mind for me is think of who Aaron studied under, right? Brett Favre, who was just an interception machine, right? and then think of who Jordan studied under, which was Aaron Rodgers, which it was normal for him to throw 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, right? So you kind of see the changing of the guard there, maybe a little bit of that. If anything, we want him to play more like Rodgers than Favre. We know that. So maybe he picked up on some of that. Could have been the case. Let's see what else we got here in the chat as we get ready to wrap up. We're at the 58-minute mark. Let's just do this. Let's go parting thoughts, guys. Jacob, or let's go with Tim. Tim, anything else you want to cover, man? Anything else we might have missed? I'm going to go comb back through the stats one more time in case I missed something, but anything else you want to talk about?
One thing that caught my eye on the defensive side was Anthony Johnson Jr. out there today seemed to be moving relatively well. I don't know if there's any post-game or any updates on any of the injuries today, but he looked better than he did, 48 hours ago, walking off the practice field. So that was kind of good to see at that back end, with safety being, obviously our number one concern, right? Our number one concern on this defense is going to be safety position. Because like you said, Clayton, we know it's going to be Savage and Ford, but is that going to be for 17 games? That season is a long grind. What happens if that, secondary looks a little different back there as we progress through the year? So seeing the younger guys in the safety room kind of stepping up a little bit and playing relatively well today was, an upside to me. So my parting thoughts are excited about this defense. And, the more this defense keeps handing the ball to Jordan Love and the offense, guys, the more opportunities we're going to have to put big plays on the board. So go Pack, go, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, we have a much more mobile quarterback that I think that the NFL is ready for. I think that Jordan Love is, again, on a fantasy football perspective, he's now catapulted himself. If you're just now drafting in the next week, which a lot of leagues will be doing, this guy's got to climb up the boards. He can run. He's a legit runner. He runs very, very well, and he's got a laser of an arm. Christian Watson is still severely underdrafted. Romeo Dobbs, they have him at 565 still for the over-under on his season yardage. Guys, that's insane. We've seen that he's going to be the number one. I think he's going to be the number one receiver there in Green Bay. So they had Preston Smith set at 7.5 sacks at Prize Picks, I believe, for the season over-under. I don't know what to say about that one, but I will say that it seems a little bit low if we're firing on all cylinders. I'm just really excited about this team. We are so young. It doesn't seem like that anything can get these guys. It doesn't seem like anything gets in their head that they can't get negative, that if they get down by a touchdown, it just makes them more invigorated from the backup quarterback to the backup edge, lineup. It seems like everybody just has this mentality where it's like, okay, we're playing till the last second, and it's refreshing. Not to hate on Packers of the old and Packers of the past, but this is a completely new vibe starting this year than I've ever seen in the Green Bay Packers in my adult life, and it's really, really cool to be a part of. So strap up. It's going to be a good season.
Strap City.
Very, very well said. Garrett coming out with the Brian Adams cuts like a knife. Will be playing in Goots' office on Tuesday. Goose already putting it out there. He said, take it to the bank, hammer it. Love 4,200 yards, 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Book it. He said, book it.
Took it down the sideline.
Talking about. All right. Let's see. Last few comments, and I want to talk about injuries and morale. Larry in the chat said, thanks, guys. Great show. Hey, Larry, thank you, buddy. Thank you for the support. It's always good to see your face in here, man. Larry. And really been enjoying the messages we've been exchanging back and forth. So cool to get connected with you guys like that. And just like I said, really appreciate your time for sure. Let's see here. Zane, love my Packer Nation. Stay blessed, everybody. In Jesus' name, amen. I like it. Amen. And Bubba said 6 D-line rotation makes the D a lot better than 5 D-line. You got that right, man. You can't – I'm telling you, fresh legs, you can't overstate it. It's something, Lombardi always talked about, and it still holds true today. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. If you can't play fatigued, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're tired or you're hurt, the old saying, you can't make the club in the tub. Well, you ain't going to make a play with your hands on your hips, breathing hard, right? It's something that conditioning is huge, but if you've maxed out everything you can do conditioning wise and your players are in the best shape they can be in, the only other thing that would give you an advantage is having that deep roster and that heavy rotation. And it starts with the guys up front. Paul Brettel wrote an article just a second ago, and we'll wrap up with this. He said there were 14 players inactive today, which included David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Aaron Jones, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Tarvarius Moore, Luke Tenuta, Eric Stokes, Lou Nichols, Henry Pearson, Tyler Goodson, Devondre Campbell, Romeo Dobbs, and Rashawn Gary. The only real surprise was that Dobbs was out, and he was sidelined with a hamstring injury. The extent of the injury is unknown at this time. Thank God we've got a full week to rest up, right, guys? So we can try to get these guys healthy. And, man, to think what this defense, the team as a whole can look like with David Bakhtiari at left tackle, Jair Alexander back on the perimeter, Aaron Jones in the backfield, which, oh, by the way, A.J. Dillon he's looking more and more like his old self. Do you guys agree? I want to ask you guys that real quick. Do you guys agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, to me, he was back to running hard. I think he averaged 4.8 a carry today, and they were well-earned yards too. And he showed good bursts too. There was one that he busted off. I can't remember what his long was for the day. Let me see here. His long was 14 yards for that long run. We want to see more of that for sure. So keep an eye on those injuries as we move forward, and it'll be something to kind of check up on. As far as what we're going to do coming up tomorrow, we're going to have 2 shows. I'm going to go live early, and I'm going to do a chalk talk. So I'm going to start editing and throwing some videos together right now, and we'll kind of talk about the top plays from yesterday. That'll go out in podcast form as well as this post-game show. And then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow night at most likely 7 Central, 8 Eastern, maybe earlier. I'll definitely post. Just keep your ear to YouTube, and I'll put the scheduled broadcast up. But we'll just kind of do a weekly recap as we get ready for the final cuts. And, of course, that comes NFL roster cuts. They have to be made by 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Okay, so this coming Tuesday, we're going from 90 men all the way down to 53. That's the first year the NFL has done that, to the best of my knowledge, in the history of the game. So, usually there's a gradual cut down, but this year it's going from 90 to 53, if I understood correctly. So that's all we got. Trying to see here if anybody else in the chat. Cut my roster into pieces. This is my 53. I got that, man. It was who was it used to sing that song?
Papa Roach.
Papa Roach. There it is. Papa Roach. All right. One more of these and then we're out.
65%.
65%. That's what and I say that because I think Aaron's playing tonight. I think he's going to play for the Jets tonight. So hit up NFL Plus. I think it starts at 6 Eastern, I think. So get your popcorn ready. Again, we want 12 to stay healthy. We want him to stay healthy. We need that 65% so we can maximize on that draft pick. And like Larry said, appreciate it, Larry. Larry said, hey, guys, just take a second. We had 169 people in here at one time. We've got 150 in here live. Do us a favor. Hit that like button. That definitely helps with the algorithm, and it gets us a little more noticed by other Packer fans. I'll tell you the greatest compliment we've received so far, gang, is Packer fans literally hitting me up on YouTube, on Twitter, email, text message, and they say, I had no idea this show existed, and it's my favorite podcast now. Again, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with Jacob or Tim. It's us just trying to talk about the things that matter, right? And this is always going to be a fan-driven show. We're not going to get on here and talk about nonsense. We're going to have a good time. You're going to laugh. I promise you that. And like I say all the time, if you haven't heard me say or do something stupid, just wait. It's coming. I promise you, okay? But we're going to kind of learn together, and we're going to try to cover all the things that we think are important to Packer fans rather than trying to fill it full of a bunch of garbage, whether it's political or arguing back and forth. That's the coolest thing. Go back through and look at this chat. There wasn't one situation tonight where people were arguing in the chat. That's the kind of environment we want to create here, and it's all about just being a better Packer fan and understanding the game at a little bit different level. Cornelius said it best: 95% football without ridiculous takes. I digs. Well, we appreciate it, Cornelius, and thanks for helping spread the word, man. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. Like I said, guys, we'll be back for Chalk Talk in the morning. Look for that. I know Larry's excited about that. He seems to like those, and I got to be honest, man, I enjoy doing them. It just, every time I do one, I catch something that I have to go look up, and then I end up learning something. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I wonder what that's called. I wonder what that formation is. You got to do a little digging, and it makes it all the better. And then we'll be back tomorrow night for a show similar to this for the weekly recap. So, Tim, can't thank you enough for rushing home, buddy, and being a part of the show. Jacob, man, I know you had a ton of work to get done today, and you made this happen. I appreciate your time as well. So, again, everybody in the chat, I want to say congratulations to the new members, Split Screen Gaming and Garrett Stritzel. Thanks for supporting the stream. And, again, that puts you into the drawing for the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey that we're going to give away week 1 post-game show. So we're out of here, guys. Appreciate everybody's time. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man to his inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.